And now that we've heard from both political parties, from the White House and from the Democratic Party, let's get a close-up look at yesterday's results with Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report and Stu Rothenberg of Inside Elections. Welcome back to both of you. Let's just get a sense from each one of you about, your main takeaway from this election. Across the country, Amy, we know we've been spending a lot of time talking about Virginia, but across the country, Democrats say, yeah, look at this. We're pretty pleased at what happened. Should they be?
Yeah, they should be. The enthusiasm factor is significant. Their voters are fired up at every level, and they're ready to come out and vote. A lot of it is organically. I know that Tom Perez, the head of the DNC, talked about organizing. I think that's important, but I think these are voters who are just incredibly motivated to vote. And that's the second piece, which is what they're motivated to vote for is not necessarily what's happening in their district or their state. They're motivated by Donald Trump. And clearly that was happening in Virginia, because it's not just the governor's race. When you look down at those state legislative races, Republican legislators who've held on to their districts when Hillary Clinton carried their districts in 2016, or when the current governor carried their districts, they lost their seats. So it is clear that there is a big Trump effect going on right now. It's a referendum on this president, and that's what we saw across the country.
Stu, what would you say?
I agree. The Democrats as a party are divided between the Bernie Sanders wing and the Hillary Clinton wing, the pragmatists and the ideologues. But they have one thing in common, and none of them like Donald Trump, and they wanted to turn out to vote, and they did. So it was, I agree, it was enthusiasm, and it was Donald Trump. That's what defined this election.
Well, let's talk about who turned out and what they cared about, Amy. And I think we have some graphics here to look at that. Part of it was women,
yep.
And looking at women based on their different education levels, women and race. What do we see?
Judy, do you remember in 2016, we talked a lot about white suburban women, especially white suburban women with college degrees. And those were the folks that Hillary Clinton was hoping were going to turn out and support her in big numbers. They didn't support her in big enough numbers to win in places like Pennsylvania or Wisconsin. And even in Virginia, Ralph Northam outperformed where Hillary Clinton did with women, with married women, with college-educated women. In essence, this election in Virginia was really about the suburban, you can call it a sort of suburban women's revenge, that they came out at a level that was really pretty amazing for what it gave to Ralph Northam.
How much of a surprise was that, Stu?
Well, there was still a significant gender gap. We've had that for many, many decades, and the Democrats continue to benefit. But we're seeing the parties change in terms of education and the coalitions. And so what I think we saw last night is just a trend, an ongoing trend, where the Republicans are moving more downscale and the Democrats are moving upscale, certainly in terms of education.
And that's what we saw, too, that Ralph Northam didn't do any better in rural parts of Virginia. The Democrat didn't do any better in rural parts of Virginia than Hillary Clinton had. It's just that he did a lot better in the bluer parts of the state, so in those suburban Washington suburbs.
They got their vote out. The
Absolutely.
Democrats got their vote out.
But the Republican vote held. The Trump vote held.
That's right.
Among white evangelicals,
That's right.
rural voters, and older working class voters.
It's just that this time the Democrats
That's
did
right.
turn out
That's right.
in numbers that Northam needed. Stu, what about when you look at the age of the folks who voted? What does that tell us?
Well, again, this is a split that has developed over a number of years, and what you see is younger voters, 18 to 44, Northam with a huge advantage over Ed Gillespie. These are voters who, many of them, the youngest voters, 18 to 29, who didn't turn out a year ago in the presidential election. And there was some question, I think, whether they would turn out this time. Northam is not exactly Mr. Charisma. There's the divide within the Democratic Party, as I mentioned, on pragmatism and ideology, but they did turn out in big numbers. Voters 45 and older, the two oldest demographic cohorts, much more closely divided between the two parties, but with an advantage to Gillespie. And they also, of course, gave an advantage to Donald Trump last year as well.
And it made a difference, Amy. I was just looking at this because the under 45s were 37% of the electorate. They're only a little more than a third of the electorate, but they were a big enough margin to make a difference.
That's right, and giving the margins that we didn't see Hillary Clinton get. In fact, this has been the argument that Democrats have been struggling with since 2008, which is how do we get that coalition that turned out for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012 to come and turn out when Barack Obama is not on the ballot. And in this case, they gave Ralph Northam, who Stu's exactly right, he is not exactly the most charismatic, energizing kind of candidate, the kind of margins that they gave Barack Obama.
We also saw some interesting, and we reported on this earlier, Stu, and that is transgender candidates were elected. You had one elected to a state delegate post in Virginia, other transgender candidates around the country. Is that the younger voters coming out?
I think in part, I think the advantage for the Democrats is that younger voters are more open-minded, more tolerant. They value diversity and multiculturalism. Guys, 50, 60, 70-year-old white working-class voters are stuck in their ways. The ways may be fine, but they're not as receptive to change. And these young voters participating, it's a huge boost for the Democrats. And if you think about it, these people are entering the political system now, or they've been involved in the last 10 years. They're going to continue to vote over the next 20 or 30 years with their values.
Which raises the question everybody has, Amy, what does this mean, if anything, for next year, for the big midterm?
Yeah, so the enthusiasm factor is significant. We've talked about that a lot on this show, that people who are energized, especially people who are angry, turn out and vote. That you don't necessarily need to have the perfect message. This is on for Democrats. They don't need to have the perfect message. What they do have is Donald Trump, and he is a great motivator to get their voters to the polls. But the next question is going to come down to structure. Where Democrats did very well last night was in suburban Washington, places that Hillary Clinton had already carried. Can they win in places that Hillary Clinton did not win? Right. Can they do better among those white working class voters, rural voters? And as Stu pointed out, the margins there for the Democrat weren't any better than they were for Hillary Clinton.
And you heard me ask Tom Perez, Stu, what are you doing to appeal to these Trump voters, to these voters in red states and red places?
Well, in part, we have to see what develops. They're a year away. These are a relatively handful of races in a handful of states. And so let's see what happens with the economy, with foreign policy, with the Mueller investigation. But Democrats have to feel upbeat and enthusiastic right now, and we'll see what mistakes or successes the president has.
We'll let him feel good for a day.
That's right.
Stu Rothenberg, Amy Walter, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.